I felt uncomfortable because Karen, my partner of 11 years, had asked me to come to the Tumbleweed Inn at 3. I knew that the bar would be almost empty at that hour, and whatever she planned to tell me was probably not going to be good news. I didn't realize just how right I was. The bar was the very place where we first met 13 years ago. I had an ominous feeling I had been suspecting that she was having an affair with a co-worker. I feared this meeting might be the moment she would tell me. There had been signs extended work hours at the office where she was the boss's secretary, a diminishing interest in intimacy, particularly with me, newly purchased provocative clothes that she never wore around me, and a notable decline in our communication. We hardly talked anymore, even at dinner, which she was increasingly absent from lately. It was usually just me and the kids eating, and she would show up late with a weak apology and perhaps a store-bought dessert for the kids, Max, 12, and Megan, 10. Ignoring me hurt, but her disregard for the children was downright maddening. When I pulled into the inn's parking lot, there were only a few cars. I resolved to remain calm, expecting her to affirm my fears. My anticipation of a thorough revelation stemmed from a conversation I had partially eavesdropped on 2 nights before. Yes, okay, I agree. Tuesday, yes, I'll get him there indeed. It was Tuesday, and it was 3, and she had managed to bring me here. I sat in the car briefly, contemplating my next steps if she were truly with someone else. I recalled the wise counsel my father had given me years ago, which had proven invaluable in my business life. Do nothing, son, until you're sure of your next move. Stay quiet. Let your adversary figure things out. The less you say, the more they fret, and if they aren't fretting, they're exposed, but giving you time to strategize. Remember, your words can give away your thoughts, even when you think they don't. Just keep quiet and step back. Address it later when you've gathered all the essential details and formulated a firm plan. As I thought back, a warm smile appeared on my face. I treasured the memory of my dad's advice, feeling his guidance as though he were advising me from beyond. Gratefully, I silently thanked him for his wisdom. Looking inside, I saw her at the bar with a man I didn't recognize. This wasn't wholly surprising. My job at Steinbeck Incorporated had taken up much of my time over the last 10 years, leaving little opportunity to meet her work colleagues. As an electrical engineer, my business was busy designing electrical layouts for various building companies, filling my days. I walked over to them. She noticed me and turned around. "Hello, Mark," she said, not with a "hello, darling" or a kiss, but just "hello, Mark," I replied, just as formally. "What's happening?" The man turned to look at me. "Mr. Steinbeck, or should I call you Mark? We brought you here today to let you know that your wife and I have been romantically involved for a while now. She's tired of hiding it and making excuses, so I convinced her to just tell you outright," he stated. As he spoke, I was somewhat prepared for this, and the recorder in my jacket pocket gave me a slight edge. I hoped it was recording everything. I waited. I said nothing. After all, my father was observing, and I didn't want to disappoint him by acting rashly. Karen looked at me, expecting me to react, but I stayed silent. She probably thought I was in shock or something, so she started to explain. "Mark, it has been so hard to keep this from you. I don't want you to feel hurt. I'm not planning to leave you, it's just that, well, being with Jason here is just too much for me to let go of. I must reveal this to you now. It's only fair that you're aware," she insisted. I doubted she recognized how illogical her claim seemed. Karen didn't finish college for obvious reasons, yet I hadn't regarded her as lacking intelligence until then. Regarding the military expert she chose over me, that alone speaks volumes. I moved to the opposite end of the bar, where the bartender tried to disregard the conversation he undoubtedly overheard. I requested the on-tap beer, which he provided, and I consumed it silently. They both watched me. Their expressions displayed perplexity. After consuming my beverage, I exited. I sensed their eyes on me as I departed the premises. For the first time in a while, I experienced relief. I sensed an upper hand. It might have been my imagination, but it felt very real then. I proceeded directly home. My kids were expecting me. I welcomed my children, affectionately chuckled, and proclaimed we were in for an excellent weekend. They shrieked with joy, and we set off for ice cream. I disclosed my earlier crafted plan. They would spend the weekend with their Aunt Susan and Uncle Dak. My sister and her husband, unable to have children themselves, cherished my kids, Max and Megan, who were central to their lives. Susan and Dak had a camping trip planned, which now included the children, providing me the chance to handle necessary matters. Is everything all right? Mark Dak queried, always perceptive. Honestly, no, I answered. I'm getting a divorce from Karen. The kids are still unaware I suspected something, he admitted, surprising me. I've picked up on a few signs, he added, and so has Susan. Karen attempted to seduce me last Christmas. I declined, and she laughed it off, yet her demeanor seemed forced. At least to me, Susan suggested, I keep quiet. Sorry for not knowing sooner, that's fine. I'm just grateful you're here to care for the kids briefly. I need to sort things out. Listen, Mark, if there's anything you need, appreciate it, Dak. I'll remember that, though I believe I can handle it. It will be complicated, but I have evidence, and this isn't a no-fault state, so proving their wrongdoing will be straightforward. After leaving here, my next stop is Henry's to initiate proceedings. Henry Morgan, our exceptionally experienced corporate attorney, seemed almost ancient, but remained incredibly astute. He knew every prominent judge and lawyer in the state, not merely the city. Karen likely disclosed her affair to preclude any actions I might take upon an accidental discovery. Her reasoning was deeply flawed, but as I contemplated more, it appeared the sole rationale. She feared my uncovering the truth would jeopardize her. Right, Henry. That's everything I mentioned as I unexpectedly showed up at his residence, catching him by surprise. I had delivered him the recording and the bartender's contact information, who had witnessed the peculiar interaction between my spouse and her paramour merely hours earlier. Fine. They will both receive their notices by Monday. Are you going back home? He asked. Yes, I believe so. I don't want to tip her off too early. I'll request that she moves out as soon as you inform me they've been notified. Very well. Malcolm will speak to the witness and get his statement signed. Tomorrow, despite it being Sunday, prompt and decisive action is crucial in this line of work, he counseled. I've always maintained, strike them hard, strike them swiftly, and leave them stunned, he elaborated. I valued his strategic approach. And Mark, I'm sorry about your marriage, especially concerning Max and Megan. If you need anything, thank you, Henry. I appreciate that I departed feeling profoundly satisfied. With an ex-ranger and a potent attorney by my side, all that remained was to await the unavoidable consequences. I had directed Henry to refuse her everything. She will receive nothing. He confirmed, that won't be a problem with any other lawyer. I was aware that sharing everything with her might be necessary, yet her actions, corroborated by the recording and Henry's assertions, would certainly provide him with a decisive edge to defeat her in court. If Henry made a statement, its truth was indisputable, I was certain of that. As I traveled back home, comfort gradually set in, possibly for the last weekend with my soon-to-be ex-wife. Upon my return, the presence of an unfamiliar car in the driveway surprised me. It likely belonged to Jason. With night setting in, I hoped to catch a glimpse of the lovers parking nearby. I stealthily approached the house. It was dark inside. Nearing the house, I saw Rex, the police officer next door, wheeling out his trash. I stood beside the unfamiliar car and caught Rex's eye. He acknowledged me with a wave, and I responded with a nod. He had noticed the car. My relief at having another witness grew. I mentally noted the car's license plate number. Tomorrow, I planned to give Henry the number, along with Rex's details and possibly some photographs if I managed to take any. I headed to the backyard, pretending to gather my garbage bins for disposal. By then, Rex had gone back inside, giving me the opportunity to sneak in and take pictures. They were in the living room. I took out my mobile phone and captured them through the rear sliding glass doors. Thank heavens for modern technology. He was standing behind her as she knelt on the couch. I snapped around 10 photos, concealed my phone, and then entered through the sliding door with a loud noise. They noticed me. The pair looked up, saw me, but continued their actions. I went upstairs. Such audacity, I thought. Nevertheless, I waited around 15 minutes. Later, I heard the front door below open and close, followed by the sound of the car engine as he departed. I waited a few more minutes before going back downstairs, heading for the kitchen. I heard the shower as I passed the downstairs bathroom. I poured a cup of coffee and waited. This was shaping up to be quite the scenario. 10 minutes later, she joined me. Are you okay? She inquired, her voice soft. I remained silent, sipping my coffee, waiting for her to make a significant remark. It bothered me that she hadn't bothered to ask about the children. This woman was different from the one I had married over a decade ago. Mark, we need to talk. The kids are at my sister's. Thought you should know. Oh yes, I realized they weren't around when I arrived, she stammered. Look, are you okay? I just wanted to be open and honest. Sneaking around wasn't enjoyable for me. You're a good man, and you deserve better. It's just sex, Mark. Only sex. Won't keep anything from you when we're together, and Jason knows this and agrees. He's a good man. It was his idea to stop hiding things from you. I couldn't help it, sorry Dad, so I can be intimate with my lawfully wedded wife, and Jason's fine with that? That's very thoughtful of him. No need for sarcasm, Mark. Honesty is always the best policy, she claimed. She really said that, as though breaching her marital vows was an exception to that rule. I had to smile, I couldn't resist. Mark, damn it, say something, she insisted. What do you expect me to say? If I asked you to call him and end it, would you? Well, then there's nothing more to say except yes, you were right. I deserve better, I chuckled inwardly, maintaining a calm, contemplative exterior. You're not a cuck or whatever she said. You're my husband and a good dad, and I love you, and one day save it. Karen, I'm going out, so there's no need to stay up for me. I just had to get away, I couldn't stand being near her anymore. To me, she was now insignificant. By Monday it would be finished, and she would just be a memory. I followed my previous route. I found myself again at the Tumbleweed, where the same bartender was still working. I made my way and settled at the bar's end. The bar was unusually busy, particularly for a Tuesday evening. I asked for a drink from the tap and inquired about the large crowd to the bartender, motioning towards the people. It's ladies' night and the wolves are on the prowl, he answered, glancing towards the far corner. The lighting was subdued, yet I noticed Jason was engaging with one of the women. So, the deceiver was deceiving another deceiver. Was I surprised? Or perhaps he wasn't deceiving the other deceiver, perhaps she knew about his other escapades. I heard about it earlier today. Man, if you need a witness, he suggested. Thanks, I might take you up on that, I said. My wife did the same thing a few years ago. But I lacked support, so the court hit me hard. That was noteworthy. I suppose. It would be better if I didn't have to pay half my salary in alimony. We spoke sporadically for the next 4 hours. I mentally planned to talk to Henry about helping this man seek justice if he helped me expose Romeo and Juliet. We deceivers must unite. Jason never saw me at the bar. I managed to get some good shots of him and his companion, planning to show them to my wife if she thought she was the only one for him. But that was to be after the big event on Monday. I got home at about 4 a.m. Josh, the bartender, and I had a few cups of coffee after closing time. He lived above the bar, had nowhere else to be, and since he was single, I guess I was a good option for a late-night conversation. I liked him, he was a skilled bartender, a big plus in my book. I was mad at Karen, but I chose to sleep in my own bed, not the damn guest room. There's something about a man's own bed, it's a detail my wife was aware of, which might be why she preferred intimacy downstairs rather than upstairs. I slid in next to her, she was awake. I felt her hand reach out to me. I brushed it off and simply rolled over to sleep. She did likewise. The morning sun filtering through the curtain gaps woke me. It was nearly 8. I could smell bacon cooking below. I rose, showered, dressed, and headed downstairs. She appeared happy, possibly thinking all was well, or that our marriage wasn't at an end. Hi, sleepyhead. Good morning, I greeted her. It smelled delicious, and I was famished. It might be the final day of our marriage, but I wasn't going to mope. Today felt like it was going to be a good day. I'll be around all day for you, she announced, as though she was granting me a favor since I had been so accommodating. Oh yes, and if you behave, you might even get lucky, she added, actually giggling. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or feel sick. How could this unfaithful wife of mine think I would willingly accept her offer? I just laughed along with her. I need to take my car in for new brakes later this morning, I mentioned. Oh, I was hoping we could, maybe later. I had to find a way to keep my distance, and it wouldn't be easy. I really didn't want to be intimate with her, but I figured I might endure it if I really had to, just to keep her guessing. Right before I left for the brakes, which was indeed true, I discreetly placed my small voice-activated recorder near the kitchen phone, assuming that if she were to call him, she would use that phone. I was right. Oh, how I loved the thrill. 3 hours later, I returned. I retrieved the recorder while she was taking out the trash and went to my office to listen to what might have been recorded on it. It was excruciating to hear her profess her love for him, extremely so, especially knowing he didn't care about her at all. I was eager to confront her with the photos I had taken of him and his girlfriend the previous night. That would certainly shake her confidence. "Hello, it's me. Yes, he's left to work on the vehicle. I'm unsure, Jason. He may not agree to it. Yes, I'll attempt. He adores me, so perhaps, but all right, I comprehend. I simply don't wish to lose him. I'm uncertain. Perhaps we exerted too much pressure by confronting him in that manner. I acknowledge, but all right, I love you too." I was seated in my office, astonished. I had wed a fool, it was demeaning. I was now undecided about whether to divorce her. How could someone so naive be accountable for her actions? Now, the pain was too deep. The sheer boldness of the duo made any reconciliation unfeasible. Then there were the children. She obviously didn't care about them, unforgivable. I had left the house before she even awoke the next morning. It was Monday, and soon it would be the ultimate end for her and her paramour. I first stopped at the office to inform my secretary Elif that I would be absent for the day. Being the boss came with its benefits. My initial visit was to Henry's office. He had information. Malcolm, his part-time detective, was married, with 6 kids, believe it or not, and his wife possessed the finances and the home, a woman 10 years his senior who seemingly had no knowledge of his dalliances. I ordered Henry to deal with him harshly and also handed him my latest recording from my phone that included a photo. He smirked at that. I also told him that I might have a special assignment for him regarding Malcolm once everything settled. I knew that Sue and Dak would manage getting the children to school. It was talking to them later that intimidated me, yet it was necessary. Henry had arranged for the couple to be served at their workplaces. A restraining order was in place preventing her from returning to our home and him as well. The documents were to be served just before lunchtime. I instructed Henry to ensure it was executed loudly and as spectacularly as possible. I desired for the couple to endure suffering. I had also asked him to make all the proof against them accessible to Jason's wife. Her decision on what to do with it would be up to her. Oh, how I yearned to witness when my wife was served. Then I pondered, why not? I was in the corridor when the server arrived. He was unfamiliar with me, and I with him, so he simply proceeded past me to where my wife was stationed, the boss's office. "Excuse me, are you Mrs. Karen Steinbeck?" "Yes," she responded, with a smile. I observed from the doorway, unnoticed as she conversed with the server. He handed her a manila envelope. "You've been served," he declared. Her expression shifted to a somber one as she perused the envelope's contents. Tears emerged and then flowed down her face, causing her to slump into her chair. Her boss approached, attempting to console her. I made my presence more pronounced. Her eyes widened with surprise upon seeing me. "Mark, why?" she queried, her voice shaking. Unable to restrain myself, I answered, "Sorry, as you mentioned, I deserve better," and then I departed. Though not present, I later discovered that Jason had experienced a similar downfall, collapsing upon realizing the gravity of his predicament. Eventually, he lost everything: wife, children, residence, career. I had underestimated one detail: Karen wasn't the world's greatest fool, she was simply the second. Days later, I found myself in Henry's office, sipping a hot cup of coffee. The day following the major event, I encountered Karen. I had an item to present to her. I was aware it might lead to her pleading, yet I felt the risk justified. "Mark, isn't there a possibility, concerning the children?" She would certainly resort to that strategy, which I disregarded. "Karen, your lack of engagement with the children has been evident for months. Your boyfriend has been your primary concern. Mark, he is a good guy, similar to you in many ways. I believe that's what drew me to him initially. He also loves me. That's the reason we endeavored so ardently to show you that all our efforts were for your advantage. Now, you've chosen to destroy everything, affecting everyone, including the kids. How could you do this?" Her tears started anew. This time her anguish infuriated me, casting the blame on me. I was absolutely livid. "Mark, it's not too late. There's a possibility for us if you're open to it. I'm confident I can persuade Jason to recognize your needs as well. You will remain my priority. You are the father of my children. It couldn't be otherwise. Jason is out of our lives. I promise to make you incredibly happy if you allow me the chance." I was speechless. I couldn't even muster anger. It was utterly irrational, senseless, and foolish. She truly believed her own fabrications. She required help, but it would need to come from another. She was beyond help for me. Karen, I arrived here today for two purposes. Firstly, I agree to give you free access to the children, but not alongside your lovers. I'll also provide some financial assistance to get you settled in a new simple apartment, but beyond that, you're on your own. My offer is contingent on your agreement not to challenge the divorce. If you do, I will oppose you with all I have. And Karen, you have no idea of what I'm capable of. Am I making myself clear? She gazed at me, evidently still hopeful that I might change my mind and accept her ongoing indiscretions with her favorite lover. Like I said, she would need help. Here are these. I slid a manila folder toward her. Please verify the dates at the bottom of the photos, I directed. They were the pictures I had snapped last Saturday night of Jason and his new girlfriend. She removed them and examined. But these are from last Saturday night. You were never his true love. He has never been committed. Have a good life, I declared. I got up, left a $20 bill on the table for the waitress, and departed. Her tears of despair flowed as I exited the venue. Second story, I found out my wife was unfaithful, and my children are not mine. I reacted in the worst possible way. To keep the account short, I realized my wife was unfaithful, and that the children we thought were ours are not mine. It all started as I was about to leave work, and my friend Trevor gave me a paternity test kit post-Christmas. I was initially taken aback by the gift, but I managed to smile to avoid seeming ungrateful. I questioned his reasoning, and that's when Trevor disclosed his doubts about my wife, having spotted her at a restaurant during a business trip. By chance, Trevor had driven past the restaurant where my wife was dining just as he was visiting his father, who had been recently hospitalized following a fall down a flight of stairs on his way to work. As Trevor waited at the traffic signal, he saw my wife clasping hands with a man in a suit, who I assume is her boss. Trevor noted he observed my wife behaving coquettishly and noticed her becoming overly familiar with another man before he departed. Initially, I ignored it, convinced such behavior couldn't possibly represent her true self. Yet, Trevor's grave demeanor cast a shadow of doubt over my confidence. Motivated to challenge his claims, I resolved to test my children to verify her loyalty. Despite our enduring friendship and an apparently peaceful marriage, I could not accept his statement without concrete evidence. Several weeks passed, and I received the hospital results, skeptical about the reliability of the paternity test. With my wife absent, I opened the envelope, only to watch my life shatter into unfixable pieces. Learning that my children were not genetically mine was a profound shock. For the first time, I found myself yelling at my wife, startling both her and the children. As she came towards me, alarmed by my distress, she met my tear-stained face as I revealed the crushing results of the paternity test. Her expression turned to one of astonishment and disbelief, akin to witnessing an apparition. I raised my voice demandingly, seeking an explanation as she started to weep, insisting she could explain, yet the common excuse of a simple mistake did not convince me. I noticed she had left her phone down, unlocked. I quickly grabbed her phone and locked myself in the bathroom, while she knocked frantically on the door, pleading. I looked through her phone and discovered roughly 47 messages where intimate texts were exchanged. They made disparaging remarks about me, shared explicit pictures, spoke poorly of his spouse, and discussed her plans to pass off his kids as mine. I was on the verge of losing my temper but remained collected and took photographs as I gathered proof. I then confronted her with the evidence on her phone, declaring that I was leaving and would inform her boss's wife of the affair. Struggling for words, my wife clutched at my arm, pleading that we could work things out. I insisted she confess the affair to her boss's wife, but she faltered, her voice trembling. I can't do that to him, our eyes locked, mirroring the anger mounting within me. Without a moment's pause, I reacted by hitting her, a strike that knocked her to the ground. At that instant, I realized it was finished. Leaving with nothing but my car, I was propelled by a determined resolution. Immediately, I messaged her boss's wife on Facebook, sharing the collected evidence. Now, I await her reply. Meanwhile, my phone incessantly buzzed with messages from my soon-to-be former wife, filled with apologies and justifications. I am bewildered. I loved her profoundly, yet she chose betrayal. I am so preoccupied that earlier today, I almost had a vehicular accident. I am currently residing in a hotel, and I beg pardon for any grammatical mistakes as I am deeply upset and have no tolerance for unfaithfulness because my father cheated on my mother and I grew up in a single-parent home. Can anyone give advice? Thank you for joining this episode of Cheating Stories. If these narratives moved you, please press the subscribe button and activate the notification bell so you don't miss the forthcoming emotional roller coasters of relationships. Your support means the world, and we are eager to share more captivating stories with you. Until next time, keep in mind that each relationship narrates a tale worth telling. See you soon.